Shoot. Yeah.
Hello. So welcome to the Node.js Community Benchmarking meeting, May 18th, 2017. So far, we have in attendance myself, Michael Dawson, Kunal Pathak, and Kyle Farnan.
Even Taylor is with me.
And, okay, sorry, and Taylor Wall as well.
It's okay, I just walked in.
Okay, great. Thanks for you all joining, and yeah, if you can update the minutes so that we keep track of who all was here, that'd be great. I think that's right. So on the agenda today, we have stand-up, just generally going, roundtable as to what we've been working on since the last time we got together. I also threw on discussing adopting the TSC participation guidelines, and I'll go into a bit more detail when we get to that. We can go over actions from last meeting. We can take some time to review the open issues to see if there's anything we should talk to on that front. And then, we can put together our actions for the next time we get together. Is there anything that people want to add to the agenda before we get started on that?
So I have a few questions around the memory consumption numbers that we collect for ACME, like the footprints matrix. But we can talk that in the other business.
Yep. Okay. So let me just add that so that we don't forget into the after the open issues review. Maybe before the open issues review, we can go into questions on ACME Air, right?
Yeah.
ACME Air numbers report.
And then even I wanted to check about the status of landing the EIS benchmark. That's been there for a while.
Right.
And also wanted to know some thoughts about Tech Empower. Do we want to add that?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll talk about those.
Okay.
Anything else?
Hi, Michael. My name is Jiapeng Zhu. We have talked in the meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. I just want to say hi to anybody here.
That's great. If you can also add in, if you can go to the link in the issue for the minutes and add yourself in terms of who's present.
Okay.
Just your name and your GitHub handle so that people know how to contact you afterwards if they want to.
Okay. Just in this issue, the meeting issues, right?
In the meeting issue, there's a link to a Google Doc.
Okay.
And in that Google Doc, that's where we're taking minutes, and you can see there's 4 of us so far. You can add yourself as the 5th person.
Okay, cool. I will do that.
Great. Okay. So on to the agenda then. Stand up. So myself, I'll volunteer to start. I haven't had nearly as much time as I would like to work on benchmarking related things. Few things I have done is set up the charts for Node version 8. I still have a little bit of work to do there in terms of there were some comments on the color, so I have to think about whether I can find some better colors and then land that PR. The other thing is there have been a few conversations. It seems that Intel is donating a benchmarking machine, like a hardware machine, native hardware machine through Neoform. And so at some point in the next couple months, I expect that to show up. We'll work on hooking it up to the CI. And, I think the discussion so far is the first thing we'd probably want to target that at is letting collaborators run the benchmarks that are built into the Node core. They tend to run for a long time, they could run for a couple days.
Yeah.
But that would be a way where, because it's a dedicated machine, it wouldn't be starving out our existing benchmarks. Those could be run, as needed. Okay, we might as well go in the order of the people in the list. So Kunal, you'd be next.
Yeah. Wanted to add something, Japan? Okay. So for me, mostly I was looking into ACME numbers and how we can how those footprints look like, the memory footprints, and how we can like portray those the memory trend, the memory growth trend. Do we do that or not today? And that's what like we can discuss it after we discuss, I think, the stand up. So yeah, not specifically in the benchmarking like I contributed, but I was just taking a snake into different benchmarks that we run today and how we can like improve them.
Sounds good. Okay. Kyle.
I'm just getting up to speed on this particular working group.
Okay. Starting to get up to speed. Okay, Taylor.
In a pretty similar boat, actually. I don't know much about this working group. I just kind of was sitting in to see what you guys are talking about.
Okay. Let's see, just sitting in to find out what we're talking about. Okay, perfect. Jingpeng.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jiapeng Zhu. Today is my first time to join this meeting. I'm a master's student in University of New Brunswick, Canada, and I'm getting involved in the Michael's Node.js project. For now, I'm working on the implementation and collection a set of Node.js scalability-oriented benchmarks. This benchmark suite is to measure and evaluate the Node.js scalability. Yeah, I just want to try to introduce myself, and glad to see you guys here today. Thank you.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, so that's the I think we got everybody there. Next thing on
Mike, are you able to?
Sorry. Oh, Udom.
Hey, Anil and Uttam from Intel.
Okay, yeah, can you guys, so yeah, I'll try and add you, Udom, so yeah, you guys can, I'm just adding you to the list of people present. Udom, who else was that with you?
Uttam
and Anil.
Yeah, and Anil. Yeah.
Anil, okay. Yeah, if you could go to the minutes, the Google Doc, and add like your GitHub, fill out your names and GitHub IDs, that'd be great. So, okay, so we'll add you into the roundtable. So, Udom, what have you been up to since last time we talked?
So Anil can actually give the overall status since we kind of work together.
Yeah, so we would like to, earlier we come here and we have presented the Node.js EIS workload, which can be used for scaling as well as different stressing. So we are ready with almost 1.0 version now. And we wanted to see how we can make it part of the node benchmarking harness. And we are ready to make those script and whatever action needed.
Yeah, okay. Let's see how it's...
Because we were trying to find out if what is script needed so we can add to the environment. Let us know that, because that part is not on the website.
Right. So I guess, yeah, we've got that on the agenda to talk about the details. So why don't we do that when we get to that part of the agenda, if that's okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I have the question to Jipeng. He was talking about the scalability, etc. If you could talk later in the open, because we are interested in that part, and we can see if there's a time, and or I can contact him separately and talk to him.
Okay, yeah. Actually, my initial idea is also wanna cover the benchmarks. It's called Node.js EIS, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it can be covered in my the benchmark suite.
Yeah, I definitely suggest.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
make
we're updating it in 1 week. You should have 1.0 multi-instance version, but we can talk later. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely suggested Jiapeng to make sure that that benchmark is included in any of the research or investigation that he does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. Anybody else on the call I missed? Nope. Okay. So next is discuss adopting the TSC participation guidelines. I just bring this up in that the TSC has adopted a set of guidelines for, when people are considered active or not active in terms of being a member of the working group. well, in the case of the TSC, is being a member of the TSC itself. I thought maybe we could discuss whether we think that makes sense for the benchmarking work group as well. And basically, I pasted the text in there that's applicable. It's if the member, if within 3 months you attend less than 25% of the regularly scheduled meetings, you don't participate in any of the discussions or don't participate in the votes that take place, then you'd kind of automatically be dropped from the membership of the work group. Of course, you can continue to participate in the meetings in the observer. And in our case, for the benchmarking work group, we haven't been that formal about bringing, what it takes to join membership. So, if you came back and were active, you would probably just become a member again. In some other work groups, there's a more formal, I wouldn't say formal, but it's like, you need to come and be active for a while before you would be added to the work group in the first place. I mean, I think the main reason the TSC did this was that, you sometimes end up with, and even if you look at our, the members listed for our work group, a good number of people we haven't seen for a while. And it would just be one way where, we could make sure that the membership list at least is the people who are active.
I think, Mike, and are we planning to have some voting or other things on like different benchmark or the area we want to do? I think that is where you probably need the active members.
Right. Yeah, really.
And,
that's the only time where it's going to matter too much.
Start going into like, are you going to give one company one vote and all individual one vote? It start becoming complex.
There's existing rules already that that we've. The initial governance for the working group was adopted from the templates that's used across, and there are rules in terms of you can't have more than 2/3, or I forget what is it, something like 30% from a single company. I'd have to go back. I mean, we can look at the document to see what it is. It's either 1/4 or 30% of the voting members can't be from a single company. And otherwise, it ends up being, a single vote per person in the work group.
Yeah. But I think we'll see when we start making those decisions. I think we can be more strict about it. But I think for now, we want to encourage more participation.
Yeah, I have no issue with. We want to get as many people as we can. So anyway, I'll throw that out there, and if it sounds like you're not necessarily in favor of us pulling that in necessarily, right? So
also, I think the cadence of like 3 months period, I think like we do like a meeting in like once in 2 months or once in 3 months. So if I just miss one meeting, I will be out of the AC.
Yeah. I know that we have some challenges on that front, so we need to tune it to make sure that that's not like it actually is. If you miss, we need to tune it to make sure that kind of things don't happen. There's no intention that it's you miss one meeting and you're out. It's more like you just haven't shown up for a year or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I just thought I'd put it on there because the TSC has made that choice, and it may end up applying to other working groups and whatever. But in any case, any other thoughts on that? Like, we don't have to decide today. I just thought I'd put it on the radar.
What about people who are not active? Do we have to ask them before we can vote this in?
That's a good question. We would have to maybe have our first vote. So you're right. Probably by the existing, rules, we would need to have a vote on it to say, yeah, let's vote this in, and I'd have to go back and look and see what the rules say in terms of what quorum is and all that kind of stuff. Often, the rules are that you don't need a vote unless there's an objection. Although I'd have to go back and ask. William's our expert at procedure, so we could ask him. whether this is something where we'd need a vote regardless, as opposed to the other approach is like you go out there and say, does anybody object? And if nobody objects, it can go forward.
That sounds fair.
Right? It gives everybody an opportunity to say, hey, wait a sec, I don't agree. But if at least you don't get stalled just because people don't answer at all.
I think I'm okay if you change it so that it's not like just one meeting.
Right. I mean, the other alternative is we could try and have more more frequent meetings, which would be good too, right? But yeah, I'll think about how we could adjust it so that regardless of our meeting frequency, right? It says attends, yeah, attends less than 25% of the regularly scheduled. Yeah, anyway, okay, I'll think about if we can adjust that and then come up with something good. Any other comments? If not, okay, let's move on to actions from last meeting. So this was from quite a while, and so Michael and Gareth really just had an action to work on additional benchmarks, as we've discussed in terms of the matrix. Ellie was going to open an issue on ignition. I think I'm going to delete that in terms of, we haven't seen him for a while. Ignition is actually almost already in, so I don't think that issue really applies anymore. So this is like no longer really applicable.
So was the initial thought about like testing the ignition engine like against this benchmark and see how it performs?
So it would be nice to do that. I have run Acme Air on Canary, which has ignition turned on, and reported some initial results back in the thread within the Node.js repo where that's being discussed. I haven't had any more time to do anything else, but I think if people had time, that would be a very good thing to do, would be to run benchmarks and provide feedback on how things look for the ignition builds. So for example, the benchmark, if you were to run the Canary build and the existing master and even 6, that would be an interesting comparison.
Yeah.
So I think that any of that work, I would say, if people have time and cycles, it's like open an issue, say, hey, I'm going to go off and do this, and then capture the results, and that would definitely be good. Ignition is going to be a big change, so the more benchmarking we can do up front, the better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, so Acme Air, I think I've got an easy way. We've got a CI job, I can run that, but any of the other ones, people adding in there would be good. Actually, I did it for all of our nightly benchmarks. Because I created a job that ran the same things and reported those results. But like I said, additional things would be good too.
I'm just wondering, what will it take to have a CI job for Acme for Node Chakra code?
Does it run on Linux?
It does.
Okay. I think then it would be a matter of cloning the existing one and just have it build Chakra Core instead.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I will have to do that, create a CI, but just want to know pointers on and do we have enough resources to do those runs?
Yeah, I think we definitely have run. We don't keep the benchmarking machine busy round the clock, so I'd say yes. What I've also started to do slowly in the background is, in the community, we've defined a way where we can give benchmark members the ability to work on their own benchmark jobs. And so I've actually enabled some of the jobs so that, anybody in the benchmarking team could actually go and modify them. What I'd like to do, probably to suggest, is that maybe, you and I could set up a time where we spend a half an hour. I could give you the quick head start for the one thing that the benchmarking members can't do is create new jobs, but okay. I can actually do that. So I can clone a new job. I can spend a little bit of time.
Mike, could you include us also, because we also want to achieve the same goal, right? Add the Node DC, and Kunal wanted to do the Chakra. And Kunal, we could do Chakra with Acme Air as well as Chakra with Node DC. We could enable same thing with like,
Sure.
and
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Like we can three sit together and then just share the instructions to each other on what it needs to run this DC and
Right. So yeah, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna put.
and make it a special. That way, we had at least more activity. There's nothing secret here.
Yeah.
We could update sections for anyone else also.
Right.
Right. So some discussion on how to create new benchmark jobs. Right. So we probably will set up meeting. Okay, Michael's gonna say.
Mike, have you submitted anything at the Node Summit to talk about more about the benchmarking? Should we could say, why don't we submit a joint presentation or something, what the Node benchmarking doing and different benchmark, and ask more people to have use cases and other thing at the Node Summit?
Yeah, I think we could do that. And I guess the call is still open.
In Node Summit call is open. They made it rolling call, and they were even asking like, oh, who they should go and ask for the submissions.
Okay, so let's
Go and
just
submit.
adding these things onto thing. I'm going to finish off the creating new jobs. Michael's doing some work to enable the broader.
So yeah, we would be interested. We can even have, if we want, I think there were two choices, panel or presentation. We could go both modes. So I can take a look, and you and Microsoft and us, three of us can put a combined presentation there.
Sure. Okay.
It would be great if we could get Google also. That would be awesome from the V8 perspective.
Right. Okay. So Node Summit CFP. I'm going to just add. So there was this discussion around the group submitting either a talk or a panel. And sorry, that was, who was that speaking?
Anil.
Anil. Okay, Anil is going.
Anil.
Anil volunteered to set up a meeting with interested parties.
So Anil, you can tag Arunesh Chandra. He's a PM from Microsoft, and I think he has some presentation in Node Summit. So
I'll check with him.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that what I'd suggest is create an issue, and just to say who's interested in collaborating on this, and then we should set up like a time to talk specifically about that. Come up with what we want to present and then submit it. That sounds good. Anil, you're volunteered to set up that meeting?
Yes, I can set up the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So creating new jobs, and so I just took notes in that, I've been doing some work to enable the broader team to enable to manage Jenkins jobs. We do need to be a little bit careful with what we do in terms of, resources and all that, but I'll set up a meeting to kick that off. Again, I'll create an issue. People who are interested can join, and we'll go through and get people started on that. The next thing we had on the agenda was questions on Acme Air numbers that are reported.
Yeah, so there is something called footprint that we report on the website, on the benchmarking website.
Right.
Can you talk a bit on like what exactly is that?
Right, so let's open that up.
Okay.
I'm going to go to benchmarking.nodejs.org. Right, so we have footprint before load and footprint after load, right?
Right, so is it like a peak working set or memory working set, or is it like collected over, like let's say Acme runs for 5 minutes, do we collect a snapshot of memory like working set? What exactly is it?
The footprint after load would be after we've run the benchmark, and it runs for, I think it's 5 minutes.
Okay, so it's like the working set after 5 minutes and working set before 5 minutes, like before the start.
Yes. Now you can go into the repo and look at the scripts that collect that to see exactly what it is. If you go into GitHub, Node.js benchmarking. So GitHub benchmarking under experimental, I know the name's not great anymore, but under experimental benchmarks Acme Air.
Okay.
There's a script called runacmeair.sh.
Yeah, I think I remember like we're using this script, but it doesn't spit out the footprint. I think there was another footprint folder outside, which might be the one.
Yeah, if it doesn't capture the footprint itself, it's another script within that exact same directory.
Okay, okay.
So like there's fp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So if you look at fp.sh, so that's exactly I think what's being used to capture that footprint.
Okay. And the
Mike, what was the link again?
Sorry, say it
The
again.
GitHub link. What was the GitHub link again?
Here. There, I've just pasted in the chat.
Okay.
Well, the reason I was asking was because like I was experimenting this for comparing the memory usage for like V8 versus like Chakra core, and what I saw was like, let's say there is a trend in the memory growth. So it might be like a huge memory that is like allocated, and then after a while it gets free. So I was wondering like, will it be good to capture the trend of the memory growth in those 5 minutes instead of just before and after? Like after the benchmark is run, sure, like garbage collector will run, it will collect some memory. We might see some, like if there are any memory leaks, we might see it there. But can it be good like if we can capture the trend of the memory that is being like there for like while running the benchmark?
Right.
Because
So
that's what matters basically, like when you're running your app, how much memory it is getting consumed at like when the app is running.
right. So my only concern is like, how do we show in an easily consumable way the data,
number?
right? So if you actually could capture the peak, that might make sense. So like, if we captured the single number, which was the peak memory that you hit, I could see we could easily create a chart that shows that over across builds. If we try and get the whole thing, I don't know how we boil that down into something we can show nightly.
I think the problem with peak is like, let's say at like after like 10 second, the peak for, let's say I'm talking from V8 versus Chakra core perspective, both went up to like let's say 1.5 gig, but then V8 dropped and Chakra core continued to be like 1.2 gig. So
Right.
there, like Chakra core is consuming more memory. V8 not, but the peak working set are same for both. So we won't be able to see like there is a problem.
So go ahead.
Just wanted to say something that for the Node.js EIS, we built the test harness also, like it's in a Python script, which generally drives the workload. So that the way it runs is it collects this memory footprint every 1 second. So
Okay.
in a Node.js, there is a callback. You make callback on separate thread in Python, which just returns the existing what is the memory state at every 1 second, and then eventually it kind of displays you in a graph. So it gives the total RSS heap and all those usages.
Okay, so but like I also put a thought on how we can like compress that in like to output just a single number, which will tell you whether tonight's run was better than yesterday's run or not.
Yep.
So we can do some kind of like geometric mean or something of those like collection of numbers, and then we can just get a number which will say like lower the better.
Right. Even
So,
like I don't know how the geometric mean relates to this, but you could think of one where it's like if you it's sort of like you'd want the area. So like if you sampled every 1 second,
right.
you can then add all of those together. And
Yeah, exactly. Right. So,
way.
like how many times the memory was 100 meg or how many times it was 200 meg. So you collect all this like bucketize
Yep.
Those things and then like somehow do a math and come up with a number.
So Node.js kind of gives you 3 ways, right? Where it gives you min, max, and kind of mean. what was the minimum memory, what was the max, whatever max happens to be over that period, if which was collected over 1 second, every 1 second, and then it just gives you 3 numbers basically.
Yeah, so that would work well, and we could add that extra number as a something else we showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think but collecting just the max won't might not solve the purpose, because as I said, like as I was checking in my other just a sample app where you are yesterday and today's binary both went up to 2 gigs, but then yesterday's binary dropped to 1 gig and it stayed at 1 gig, but today's binary was just flat on 1.5 gig. So today's binary actually regressed because it is consuming 500 meg more memory over the period, over the benchmark run, but that doesn't show up in the result.
Right.
Because the result still says both yesterday and today's run consume 2 gig of memory as the highest working set.
So that's what I'm saying. We have 3 numbers, as Michael said. There are 3 numbers. One is the minimum, the maximum, and the mean, the average. And hopefully if you collect these numbers for long enough time, like 5 minutes is a good enough time for the Acme Air,
Okay.
where hopefully they're very stable enough to give the kind of a right kind of information.
Okay, I mean, yeah, sure. We can experiment and see, and then tweak it to get the right number.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So I'd say
I just wanted to. That's what we're exploring, and that's how we kind of put it into Node.js's test harness. That just wanted to mention that.
Okay. So there is so basically when you run your benchmark, there is a cost for collecting those numbers from your benchmark code, right?
Yeah.
It is part of one of the callbacks you can think about. Yes.
Right. So there is a cost basically. So can't you do it outside? In the Python, let's say you get a process ID of your running node process, and then use your Unix tools to get those memory numbers from Python script itself, instead of node calling node having a callback, because in that way then your benchmark code won't have a penalty of collecting memory numbers.
Yeah, that can be done too. But right now, I think that's a good suggestion.
So Kunal, on that one, that becomes a bit OS and architecture specific.
Yeah, I mean, you can write a node module to do that, but there are node modules which say take this PID and give me memory status of this PID. So it does for Windows it will run some PowerShell, I don't know, command, and for Unix it will run something else. But yeah, sure, means it's not a super critical thing, but something good to have.
Yeah, we want to make it useful because many people in the enterprise would like to have all this information for different reasons.
Okay.
So in terms of minutes here, I'm taking that.
It is given in a configuration file. There is a JSON file which you can change this time instead of 1 second, 10 seconds. And since it is runs in a parallel process of Python, the client is keep on sending requests while you give 200 to 500 concurrency. That means your server, which actually does the job, is really busy. And the penalty over time is much less to collect this information.
Okay.
But that's a good idea too. Yeah.
Okay.
So
how long does the benchmark run?
Sorry?
How long the benchmark runs?
Yeah, so right now, what we are working towards is the final version will have 2 modes where you can say run with 1,000,000 requests and 500 concurrency or whatever concurrency, or you can say run for 10 minutes. So both modes it's going to have.
Yeah, usually you should be able to get pretty reliable data in 10 to 15-minute run.
Okay.
So the what we are working on this is right now it runs on both mode. As I said, the time-based run, what we are thinking is the system should that you run for 10 minutes and you should come back and say, hey, I ran it for 10 minutes. This many requests I processed, and this is the best concurrency I can get out of the system. That's the ideal scenario. That's what we're working towards.
Right. Okay.
It's like what Siege does today, right?
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So this benchmark runs both on Windows and Linux, or it's just for Linux?
We have tested it on Windows. It runs on Windows. The benchmark runs on Windows for sure. The script are Python scripts, and there are some maybe specific. The client is a little bit.
The client need to be Linux.
Yeah, if it definitely works on Linux, but there are some Python modules we use. you need to find the maybe equivalent or for the graphing purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, it may or may not work as it is out of box on Windows at the client. The server definitely works.
Okay, got it.
Now,
So,
I mean, in terms of the community environment, we only have Linux right now anyway.
okay, yeah, that was my next question to you, like what we run on in the what we run for Fire.
We have one dedicated machine from SoftLayer, so it's like, it's dedicated, so there's no interference with anything else. But it's the one we have, and it's got Linux installed on it.
Okay.
One question that from Intel, we do a open source language performance lab, which has like dedicated machine for different runtimes like Python, HSVM, Node, etc. We could run and the machine is not used when the node test is done. If you like, we could move the current node benchmarking infrastructure to those machines.
Right. Now, typically the stuff that's hooked up to the community CIs is something where the community build work group has access, like root access to the machines, configures them. We then connect them up to the, to the Jenkins infrastructure. I don't know if that's possible in that case.
We are using Jenkins. It's just the root access part we like to have control. So if you want, the community could have on your side, and we could run the same copy, and the data could come usually from Intel. But if you need any modification, we can mirror do.
Yeah, I'd have to bring that up in the build work group. Like, it's certainly like the issue might be connecting something to our Jenkins instance, which isn't under control of the build team members.
I see.
Is potentially an issue, right?
Right.
And the machines you talked about the two machines we sent to Nearform. I think they, what we heard that they already received it and they are in the process of configuring it. So
right. So those ones, as I understand, we will just connect them right up to the CI, and this group can use them however is fit. So those ones are certainly will be directly used.
Okay.
So it was. I'm sorry again. I'm not great at picking up, since you guys have logged in in the same room. I'm not great at picking up names. Is it Kunal who was asking those questions?
Yes.
Okay. So I've taken. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm saying that as an action for next meeting, you've taken the to-do to create a PR to add either something like a mean or something else to the Acme Air run.
Sure. Yeah. I'll take a look.
So, you can look at those scripts, create the PR to add the mean, then I can quite easily add it into the charts that are reported.
Right. Sure. So the footprint, yeah, I'll have to, I'm just trying to get things around, I'll have to make sure that I run those footprints every 1 second and then gather those numbers and then calculate a mean and dump that number somewhere.
Yeah, something like that. Make sure you try and analyze whether taking those numbers is going to have any effect on the on the benchmark itself. But if you if you can come back to us and say, well, here's your proposal, every second is fine because it has no effect on the results, or maybe it's every 5 seconds. I don't know. Come back with what you suggest, and
Yeah, and that's what I would love to have it outside benchmark code. Done it externally, I have a PID and then some other tool can just query those memory numbers.
I'm pretty sure that's what FP does.
Yeah.
It's just a bash script, and I can see that it's catting proc mem info to get the footprint.
Correct, based on some PID. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much what it already is.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, take a look at it, make a suggestion.
Sure.
And it certainly sounds like a good idea, and I think everybody else sounds like it's a good idea. And
Let it give us a sense of memory trend, the memory growth trend over the time. Yeah.
Yep. No, definitely. And having that extra number, yeah, because like you said, if that would be another nice single number we can easily look at and see, well, did the characteristic change significantly or not?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so on that agenda item, any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. So EIS benchmark?
Yeah, that's I think Uttam already asked what are the next steps to land.
Right. So as I remember, the next step was I was kind of asking if you guys could provide something that says that covers these things in our matrix?
Yeah. So how about I open an issue and kind of say this is what we want to integrate or donate to our group, and I'll say what are the things it covers, what are the use case you're addressing, and the GitHub link. Right now it's already on GitHub, it's open source, so I'll add a link to that project, and then we can discuss again.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And like even at some point, if as we were looking at there's this under the experimental directory. What we'd likely want is a benchmark, in there, there's benchmarks, there'd be another directory, which would be DCEIS, and have all the scripts that are needed to actually run the benchmark.
Okay. I mean, for today, in fact, once we have our V 1.0 work done, I can in fact go ahead and at least issue a pull request to all the code, and maybe the script needs to change so that it can be hooked up easily with Jenkins existing structure.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, if you put a PR for a new directory in there, and it's as simple as like for Acme Air, there is a single script. Where is it? Run Acme Air, right? So like if there's an equivalent run DCEIS,
yeah,
and then that spits out. In the output, it spits out things that can be easily parsed into like the specific numbers we want to report. That's all that's needed, right? Because running in Jenkins, there's nothing special there beyond those scripts. So like for Acme Air, all it does, it says it runs that script, it parses the output to pull out the things, and then the actual publishing into the database is, a couple lines of bash scripting.
Okay.
So yeah, but key for me is that like we want to build up that matrix coverage to say, well, we're running this one because it gives us good coverage in this area, and so that at the end we can say, look, we're covering all these different areas. So
yeah, so that issue I'm going to open, I'll add all the details saying what is the currently it also creates a summary text file with our existing text formats, what it looks like, what are the things it covers, and what to do next.
Okay, that sounds great. And then even like when I set up the meeting to go over like the jobs, it should be something where we can clone the Acme Air job, and then it, I can do whatever transfer so that you even know how to be able to then call those scripts once they land and stuff like that. Okay, so that was Udom, right? Submit PR with info/scripts. Okay, I will. And under actions, or DCE-DIS. Okay, that's great. Okay, Tech Empower.
Yeah, I was curious, like, have we discussed earlier in the benchmarking group whether we want to add Tech Empower in the benchmarks, or because like there are a lot of frameworks that are compared on this Tech Empower, and Node.js seems like very low on that compared to other frameworks.
Right.
So maybe like if we start having Tech Empower numbers, maybe it will drive people to improve Node.
Yeah, to be honest, Tech Empower has been discussed. I can't remember if it was in this work group or internal to IBM. It just never has gotten to the point where it's, been high enough priority to make something happen. In my mind, I would drive it from, does it fill in some more of the gaps in our matrix? And if yes, then we should run it, right?
Yeah, because the setup is very easy, especially compared to Acme.
Right. So do you have a good feeling for what kind of things it would be measuring and telling us?
I mean, like it's same, I think, request and response, but this one is I can't remember, but this one actually measures in different type of files, I guess. Like one is JSON versus text response, and there are like 2 or 3 other. But it's again like overall it's like a request response.
I guess I can. Sorry, go ahead.
So we have looked at a couple of them, I think, and what it mostly, because it's written in so many frameworks, it's pretty much the HTTP response while using plain text file or JSON object or different kind of object. And that is why it have been implemented in so many, because the main idea is you're just sending and receiving the different object over the HTTP.
Okay.
So it is going to exercise only that component, just the HTTP response part,
Right.
receive and response. And what you may find that because that part is that part is almost 100% execution path, when you start tuning for it, you may find the tuning which are not necessarily good for the typical workload or the production environment. It becomes very sensitive to your network card tuning, your number of thread for the network part tuning, because most of the time you are executing only that part.
Right. Okay. You think there's any, like, one thing that came to mind as a potential value is, if Node.js is compared on that basis, then if, for example, we did something that half the performance to what it used to be before, that might not be a good thing.
I
So,
think it may be okay as far as we find the same thing is benefiting, like Node.js or Acme or something which are a little more traditional. And as we go add more, if the similar thing benefiting others too, then only we add, because it may give us something about the network stack. But because of the HTTP response type, you may find more blocking requests much faster than the asynchronous approach.
Right. Yeah.
so I guess what's the, are you suggesting like it's less useful, or just to be careful if we do it?
Yeah, be careful about the conclusion you could draw based on the optimization you find.
Right.
But if it is simple, we could look at, Kunal, the initial data. If you are planning to run with Chakra or so, then it would be interesting to see the initial data.
Yeah, like, is it simple enough that we can just run it, and does it add value if there's a big change in it? Is that useful for us to know?
Yeah, I mean, running is like you just run the server and then like use the load tester tool of Ubuntu. I can't remember the name, but that's pretty much it. And it doesn't even run for like 5 minutes, like 10 seconds run, at least for one.
We have to look for the variability, and if you run anything you run like 10 seconds, I would be a little worried of the repeatability of the numbers.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, well, now I don't know if you want to look at it and sort of experiment and then come back and say, hey, this looks like it's stable and useful. It sounds reasonable.
Yeah, but that brings me another thing. Like, so this is basically, this definitely checks for the HTTP stack, like all these benchmarks. Do we have any benchmarks that verifies like other things like buffer and I don't know, like domain and things like that?
Well, that's where, if you look at the goal of that matrix was to try and call out the specific things we should be covering. So we don't, and those are mostly higher level things or key attributes. So we don't have like micro benchmarks, which are the benchmark.
Yeah.
The thing we did have on our list that we haven't figured out yet is if there was some way we could boil down the core benchmarks, which cover all of those, to some reasonably reportable numbers, that would be useful as well. The problem is right there, there's two problems with the existing core benchmarks. Is one, they can take so long to run.
Yep.
And two, you end up with so many numbers. Like, how do you report them such that people could look at them and actually figure out we need to do something, right?
Hey, Mike and Kunal, I have a question about the buffer question you asked, that, and Uttam could speak more. So Node core itself has the micros about the buffer, etc.
Yeah.
And then Acme and Node.js, they use these buffers anyway. So what exactly are you looking for? Stressing more, or?
I think. Sorry, go ahead. Kunal.
No, I mean, like, I don't know, like, to what extent the Acme and like the EIS benchmark uses buffer. But I think like in the core benchmark, and then Michael can correct me, like there are like different like I think buffer sizes that we verify it against.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a whole set of micro benchmarks that would cover the challenge we have, I think, as a group is like, how do we usefully leverage those into something that you can run regularly, report numbers on, and catch regressions. because it generates, you know, a fairly large set of numbers, and I don't think people are going to be looking at that all the time. And the other thing is, like, it takes this, maybe with the new machine we can actually run it, you know, once a week or something like that, but it can take, like, depending on the configuration, days, weeks to run through a whole. So there's some thought that we need to put into in terms of, well, how are we going to run it so that we can, you know, get the data, what subset of the data can we report, and make it consumable.
And internal workloads, we are running it at Intel's Performance Lab website. Okay, if you go there, you do see some of those are added, and we are in the process to add more. There are buffer related and quite a bit. So so we do have it. I mean, and it's already, we announced it at the last Interactive.
How did you choose those? How did you choose which ones to run?
Oh, that was a big exercise actually. We ran it over a few weeks, and we found that some of them have a very huge variability in the run. And then we picked some which are very stable, like buffer index of data view. They are quite a bit stable.
Right.
And so that's what we have today. But so basically, as I said, and you are right, if you run all of them with all configurations, it's going to take weeks to run, complete it. So the process is just find something which is stable, so we can run nightly basis and get some meaningful data out of it. And hopefully try to see a trend overall, what the trend is going up or down.
Right. Because, yeah, that sounds good. If you know, that could be, you know, that could be one of our group's efforts, is to say, well, how do we do that, you know, and explain, well, we picked this subset and we run these regularly. You know, I think that's just a matter of having the time to make that happen.
Yeah. And here as I understand, if I look at our last meetings, we try to see what are the real use cases the Node.js is getting used, web casing, React, or whatever different forms of JSON transfer, database connection, all those things we are trying to cover here. That's what my understanding is.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so our time is, we're down to 2 minutes left. I think in terms of open issue review, we won't have time, so maybe we'll defer that to the next time. We had lots of good discussion. Is there anything that anybody thinks we absolutely have to cover this week?
So you will be taking care, like, at least, like, looking into having some kind of CI job we can configure for Node Chakra core. Like, we will have.
Yeah. So here are the actions I've taken.
Okay.
I'm going to set up a meeting for CI job configuration. So I'll send out an issue and a doodle to say, hey, let's get together. I'll walk the interested people through the jobs. I can create, like, sample ones that, you know, individuals can actually then take off and work on. Okay. I'll give you the caveats of, you know, we're kind of being trusted to do this, so we can't go crazy, and we got to be a bit careful. But, you know, it's work for the other work groups, so I think we can do that as well. And so hopefully that'll be the starting point where, like, okay, if we say, yeah, let's run these other benchmarks, you guys can help to implement those as well, which would be great. The next action I took was Anil's going to set up a meeting to flesh out a submission to Node Summit. So again, you know, pull together the right people. We can brainstorm and agree on what it is, get that submitted. Kunal is going to create a PR to add a mean or something else to the Acme Air runs. Udom is going to submit a PR with info scripts for DCEIS, the explanation how it covers the different areas of the matrix. Like, even as part of the PR, if it includes updates to that matrix, would be great to say, yeah. Did I miss anything there? No? Okay. And I will take the action to definitely, you know, we've kind of let it go a little too long. Thanks to the poke to get the meeting going. I'll make sure I set one up, like, this week for a month from now. Yeah. I'll try and send out the doodle, you know, today, probably tomorrow, and we'll make sure we get back in another month, and we'll have those other meetings in the middle as well. So.
Okay. We could make our Node Summit thing through these meetings, so you can have more active than even a month. So we could attract more.
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, set up that meeting for next week sometime, right?
Yeah. So yeah. I'll send you the question details then.
Yep. That sounds good. And if there's any, you know, if we need to have one sooner, we could do that too. Like, do you guys think a month is right, or what do you think?
I think other things are picking up, and we want to add more detail I would say bi-weekly we could go. Look like Kunal has interest to add the Chakra related thing. We want to add the Node.js related thing. So we might have enough
Okay.
material to sustain every 2 weeks.
So how about 2 weeks?
We can cancel if people don't have the agenda item or something.
Sure. I guess that does come, the other approach versus the doodles, which sometimes is hard to find sometime. We could try and choose
we could
every
fix
week.
the time.
Okay, so let's try and do that. Now, what's the best? I guess maybe a doodle is a good way to do that still, or is there a better way?
And that we want to fix the time every 2 weeks. What time?
Okay, so I'll send out a doodle that says, okay, what time can we do it every week? I'll pick a few where at least I'm available. Like I'll try and pick a good number. The challenge is finding one where maybe the people from the UK and everything can attend as well. But we'll do the next doodle to be for a meeting. And
if we pick like 12 to 1 lunchtime, I think West Coast guys probably keep their lunch open every 1-2 week, and that is still like 9 o'clock for UK guys or something. Probably still okay. But we could go early if you want to go early. We don't have problem early.
Yeah, I'll try and find one which is like 9 a.m. Eastern, 12 Eastern, 5 Eastern, and I guess even something outside, something that covers the full range. Now, I don't know what time would be the best for everybody? If we have?
I don't. You're lucky that no one from China or Russia here, okay?
Yeah, we have that problem on the TSC where like there's one that's like 4 a.m. in the morning, right? Which, it's like, no, I can never make that one.
Yeah, I think 9 a.m. Eastern becomes hard for us on the West Coast. It's like 6. So anything after 7 is reasonable.
Okay, so like...
So 10 Eastern.
I think the doodle works out good because you give these multiple options. I think that's definitely a great way.
Yeah, so 10 Eastern, 12 Eastern, 5 Eastern. And yeah, okay, I'll try and find a bunch across those things. But it's good to have the feedback that says like, 10 Eastern is the earliest that's good for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise we will be groggy.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's like the time zones are a killer, right? Like, I think 12 Eastern covers is around 9 o'clock for you, the West Coast, right?
Right.
And that's about 5 for the UK people. So that one maybe, and as long as we don't have,
That's why I know the many times rather than 5 p.m., many UK people like 9 because then they're done with the family thing and they join from home.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so sometimes a little bit later is even good too. So, okay. Yeah, I'll send out a doodle to try and get something, and if we can do a repeating one, because that would make it easier, I think, to have a good cadence.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. And I think between now and then, there'll be a bunch of other meetings that we're, there's at least 2 other ones that, we should be setting up. So we'll be talking before then anyway. Okay. Anything else again before we close out for today?
Okay.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you guys all soon.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.